Tip number. Jason's moving.
So I'm going to record this on Zoom and we'll post it later because I'm going to give you a little bit of a fire hose of information. Okay,
Yeah,
how's
nice.
that? Where to start? I'll start actually with why I posted this and what led up to that. You know, first when the first pandemic first hit, my coaching business kind of flatlined and I freaked out a bit. And then I realized I'm not going to, I don't want to participate in the freak out, right? So I changed my mindset. I realized that I had to change, and hey, anytime there's change, there's opportunity. So I changed my mindset a bit. Boom, attracted a business. It was a new network marketing company in the US. And I ended up making great money. I sold more than anyone else in the world with that company. And but about July, August, we'll just say that their business practices made me slightly homicidal. Right? It's not a good thing. So sometimes what you have to do is you have to realize that what you're doing isn't working, and there's a bit of a grieving process, and there's part of, you know, you really have to let go of baggage and forgive. Does that make sense? Like if you want to move forward, you have to you got to let go of some stuff, right? One way to understand it is if you want heaven to come into your life has to kind of be a mirror of what heaven looks like. That makes sense. A simple analogy is, you know, like the hillbillies in Appalachia, you know how they catch this raccoons is that what they'll do is they'll take a log and they'll hollow the log off and they'll make a small hole in the log and they'll put something shiny in the hole, right? And so the raccoons come along and they look and they go, ooh, look at that. And they reach in and they'll grab this shiny thing, but their hand can't come back out of the hole because they are holding on to something, okay? And they won't let go, right? So the first thing I had to do in July and August, I had to forgive. I got to forgive you and you and you and what you did, and I was making great money, and now you screwed everything up. You know, it's like anyone that ever have to get through that. So I had to let go of all that, and then I was thinking about, you know, it's like my calling in life is not to do network marketing, although I do it and it's great and I'm pretty good at it. Really, I know that my wife and I have a calling to have kind of a business / ministry, helping people integrate spirit, soul, body, and how to live holistically. But to create something like that, I need a decent amount of residual income so I can not worry about my bills and invest in creating something. So I knew I needed a vehicle to do that, okay? And I thought about, there's a scripture came to mind. It's, you know, there was a widow and she's talking to the prophet and she's like, my husband worked for you, but he's dead and they're about to come take my kids. And he's like, well, what do you have? And she's like, well, I have a little bit of oil. And he's like, well, go. It was like, go talk to everybody about if they'll, you know, participate and give you containers, then fill it and then go sell it. And then he said, and then pay off your debts, but then live from then on. Does that make sense? So it's more like it was like a legacy event. Does that make sense? Like you do something extraordinary, passionately, and it will last. So I was like, okay, I'm ready for something new. And I was just like, okay, well, what is the key word for it? And it was the word extraordinary, right? So I took my journal and I started writing in my journal because I find it's a great way to create things because it integrates with your brain. And I wrote in my journal, I wrote, I want to create something extraordinary. I can create something extraordinary. I will create something extraordinary. I am now, right? And I wrote that out over and over and over and over. And after about 3 days, yeah, so I want to create something extraordinary. I can, I will, I am now creating something extraordinary. So I wrote that out for 3 days. And the third day, our mutual friend called us. He messaged me on Facebook. He goes, hey, buddy, found something you might be interested in. I'm like, cool. what is it, right? And when he told me about it, I've been doing this business long enough. I had very specific criteria of what I wanted, right? And when this showed up in my life, it had everything I was looking for. It was like, check, 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 check. Website wasn't up to standards, but had confidence that James would fix that. And he did, right? So I was like, boom, it was exactly what I was looking for. So professionally, what I do is I work, I'm a kind of a hosted coach. I help people work through their issues. And one thing I want to talk briefly about is goals versus vision, okay? And we're going to be sharing Sunday, so I'm going to be sharing some scripture because we're not in church, right? So here's one thing, the Bible says this, it says, without faith, it's impossible to please God, right? And this is not like a God's disappointed in you. I don't think that there's room in unconditional love for disappointment, but God wants to see you win, right? It's like, and if you're not using your faith, you're not living up to your potential, okay? So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, okay? We're going to participate. They may be trick questions, okay? Here's the deal. So if I come, I'm like, if we're friends, I'm like, oh, I just came from the doctor. The doctor told me I have cancer, but I know that God will heal me. I know God will heal me. Awesome. Is that faith? No. I might even warn you, I'll ask you some trick questions. It's not faith. Faith is always present tense, right? Oh, someday God's going to be healing. Someday, well, yeah, you're going to come to my funeral because someday God is going to heal me, okay? So when I ask my clients, I go, cool, what's your vision, right? Then they will tell me, here are my goals. I'm like, goals are great. That's not a vision. It's not something you're connecting your faith to, okay? So your vision is, it's always present tense, okay? And I want to talk about there's three things that come into alignment to have a clear, powerful vision, right? And when I say vision, we could be talking about, okay, I can call it vision. I can talk about how you're connected to God's kingdom. You can call it faith. You can call it manifesting, whatever you want, okay? So the three things are heart coherence, coherence of intention, and quality of emotion. So heart coherence, coherence of intention, quality of emotion. So I'm going to go over what those three things are, because if you have these three things in alignment, then you can powerfully create what you want to, okay? So the first one, heart coherence is heart coherence, when heart coherence is low, I'm overly focused on the problem and unaware of divine intervention and connection, right? Physiologically, it correlates to like heart rate variability, right? Did you know you have 3 brains? Who knows that? Some people know you have 3 brains. So you have a brain in your gut, a brain in your heart, and this brain. So this is your sensing brain, because you've got 8 times more nerve signaling going from your gut to your brain. This is your feeling brain and your thinking brain. So one of your heart's job is to tell your brain it's safe, move forward. Okay. So it's about heart rate variability too. Okay. So when you have low heart coherence, one way to describe it is I'm thinking and acting like an orphan. I've got nobody to help me. My ability to handle something is entirely up to my own resources. And that's a little stressful, right? But if I change that, and you're a spirit, soul, body, so even changing your physical body first, like if I go like this, I'm all of a sudden I want to take a deep breath with my nervous system's relaxing. I can look up and around, right? Because your best solutions to your life are in your peripheral vision, right? It's like there's no solution. Hey, relax. You're like, oh, wait a second. We could do that. I didn't even notice that, right? So when you change your heart coherence, you open yourself up to things being easy. Okay. solutions coming, right? One of the things to understand is that your conscious mind has to filter so much information, okay, that it must make shortcuts to survive. Okay. So your information comes in, your brain will compare the information coming in basis your own, compared to your own subconscious beliefs. Life is, I am, people are, right? Now, if the information coming in doesn't match your beliefs, your brain will ignore it or pervert it to match it. Okay. Right. Oh, there's no opportunity. That doesn't work. Well, it's not going to work for you. Researchers, very interesting. They did an experiment and they asked for people who thought they were lucky and people who thought they were unlucky. Okay, and some of you are automatically putting yourselves in one of those categories. I'm lucky, things don't work out for me. Oh, everything works out for me, right? So they gave everyone participating, they gave them all a newspaper and they said, we want you to just look through the newspaper, count how many pictures are in the newspaper, okay? Very simple. Now the researchers put 2 additional items in that newspaper. One of them said, there's 43 pictures, you can stop counting now. The other one said, congratulations, you have won $250. Only the people who thought they were lucky could see either one of those things. The degree to which your brain is lying to you about what is reality is stunning. Okay. Now, you know, people pervert reality because you say or do things that other people say to mean things you never meant. Like, so, you know, other people's version of reality is wrong, but some reason we think our version is accurate. Okay. And it's not. So first, heart coherence, next, coherence of intention, which means that I know what I want to create and I'm going to create it. It has to do with, one thing here to understand is that you have to get very good at measuring your life in a way where you're winning. Okay. You ever hear anyone say, man, set some huge goals and go for it? Like, no, don't do that. When you're talking about goals versus vision, you want to make sure you're hitting your goals at least 70% of the time. Okay. You can't learn how to win by losing in life. Okay. And I learned this from a guy who's one of the probably best leadership coaches in the world, maybe. He helped the one network marketing company I was participating in go from 0 to $1 billion in cumulative sales in under 5 years, right? And I'll give you a quick example. He said, I was working with a woman. We get together once a month and we go over her goals in different areas of her life. Okay. He goes, I noticed in her physical fitness goals, she had a goal to stretch her back every single day. She wasn't doing it at all. He's like, yeah, we got to get rid of this goal. She goes, no, have to. He goes, you're not. She goes, it's got to get fixed. She goes, no, I really need to do this. He goes, I will not continue to allow you to fail. You must get rid of this goal. She goes, here's the deal. She goes, I have a congenital spinal issue. My husband's a physical therapist. For my long-term health, this has got to get handled. He's like, okay, how about this? This next month, make a goal. Stretch your back one single time the entire month. Would you actually do that? She goes, yes, I would actually do that. He's like, great, cool. Next month they get together and you see she's done it 4 times, once a week. He's like, you are 400% over your stated goal. Amazing job. She's like, I know, that's a pretty good job, right? Guess what? Now she stretches her back every single day. All right, so in your network marketing business, you can't continue to set these huge goals that you never hit. Does that make sense? It's like, maybe what you need to do is to dial it back, set some goals that are so ridiculously easy that you almost laugh. Cool. Set the goal, tell a group of your peers that you're going to do it, hit the goal, have the experience of telling a group of your peers, I did what I said I was going to do, which puts a deposit in your personal integrity account and you bring it up a notch. Does that make sense? So So coherence of intention is to have an understanding that you're a powerful person. That makes sense?
Yes.
Now, one of the things to understand is that I'm going to tell how much time do I have anyways? Okay. I want to tell and if you haven't noticed, I kind of like dogs, right? So I want to give you an understanding of what your potential actually is and how to look at what happens in your life. Okay. So I had a dog. He was half pit bull, half Dogo Argentino. It's like a hog hunting dog. He was like this freakishly engineered dog. Long story short, we went through financial upheaval. We walked away from a house. We lived in an Airstream travel trailer for a year and a half. It was great. It was stressful, whatever. But at the end of the trip, we tried to move to Florida, right? So I'm trying to rent a home with this dog, 90 pounds. Forget about it. Wrong size, wrong breed, not going to happen. So a friend of mine in Georgia, he's like, hey, your dog was bred to hunt hogs. I don't know if you know, Dave. So it's kind of a flat area level sport, right? Hogs are an absolute menace. If you hunt hogs with dogs, the dogs, they chase the hogs down, they grab them until the hunter gets there, right? It's kind of a very brutal sport, but my dog was bred for that. Does that make sense? But when I got him as a puppy, I trained him to be very chill, right? He wouldn't even play tug of war with you. He'd be like, you keep that, no worries, right? So I'm like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take him, I'm going to drop him off. Okay. So I dropped him off in a kennel. He's looking at me like, what am I doing in a kennel? I'm like breaking my heart. And I told the owner, I'm like, by the way, he's an escape artist. The guy's like, whatever, he's in a kennel. What's he going to do? Like, just tell you he's an escape artist. So about 2 weeks later, I'm talking to my friend and he's like, hey man, he goes, just let you know, Monty, dog's name. He goes, Barrett, his new owner, says Monty won't catch. Like he's not doing what he needs to do. Okay. And he goes, he likes him as a pet, but he can't keep him as a pet. That dog's got to earn his keep. I'm like, oh man, like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't go get my dog. I'm like, kind of sometimes you have to go, okay, God, handle it. That makes sense. So a couple of months later, I'm talking to my friend again, and he's like, hey, he goes, do you want to know what happened to Monty? I'm like, yeah, tell me. What happened? He goes, well, initially, they would put him in a pen with like little 100-pound pigs, and he wasn't doing it. One day, they're like, forget it. And they put him in a pen with a 250-pound boar. He goes, he walked up to the boar turned around and like beat the crap out of him for 2 minutes, walked away. He goes, Monty got up, shook himself off, looked at the boar, barked once, charged him and knocked him down with his chest, grabbed a hold, and they go, we had to pry his jaws open with a stick. Like, we're like, maybe it's a fluke. They separated again. He's like, bam. He goes, your dog has turned into a hog hunting maniac. Okay. And when he told me that, I was so proud of him. Does that make sense? I'm like, I knew it. Right. But here's the thing. It was always in him. It was part of his original design. So it's part of his original design. It's not hard for him to tap into it. Does that make sense? Like, I've also owned a Labradoodle. Okay. That Labradoodle would never, like, it's not in him to be a hawk. Like, you pop bubble wrap. I'm like, where's my, Mufasa? Oh, he's upstairs hiding in the bedroom because you caught the bubble wrap, right? So one thing to understand when you think about intention, it's like, okay, cool. What is your original design? Your original design is that you're made in God's image. Okay, that's your original design. Have you had some experiences that may tell you otherwise? Sure. But is that your original design? Right? So if it's not your original design, then it can't be difficult to return to your original design. Does that make sense? It's like, so you can look at your experiences or how you're showing them currently. It's like, okay, I understand it's not in alignment with what you really want to do or be, but how can you return easily to it? That makes sense. So the next one is coherence of emotion. Okay. And so when we're talking about a vision, we're talking about here's what we're talking about. When you allow your current circumstances and environment to impact what you're thinking, feeling, saying, and doing, you can and will only create more of your current circumstance and environment, right? You're just reacting to life. Yeah. You're not a powerful person, right? When you use your God-given imagination and emotion, and you step into clear vision and reality of what you want to create, and you can so clearly see and feel it as a accomplished fact with such clarity of detail and emotion, and you allow that vision to impact what you're thinking, feeling, saying, and doing, now you can create something, and it's called faith. Okay, so I'll give you a couple examples. I'm fortunate I know a decent amount about this because my mom figured this out and it saved her life. Okay, so my mom was, she goes, doctor says, no, you have breast lymphatic and uterine cancer. Her doctor says, if you don't do exactly what I tell you to do, you'll be dead in 6 months, right? So my mom walks into the first church she can find. She goes, okay, God, what I do, right? And she got very serious about nutrition. She got very serious about learning about what faith is and what it isn't, right? Now, she understood, so faith is always present tense, not God will heal me someday, but I receive it as an accomplished fact now, okay? And so here's one very important thing. She was like, I don't know if I can believe it all right now, because I don't think I'm connected to that. So she wasn't trying to pretend she wasn't faithful. She was. It's an important thing, right? So she asked herself, well, what could I believe? That's a great, saved her life, that question right there. What could I believe? And she's like, well, I could believe that 2 cancer cells at our time are continuously healing themselves in my body. See it, visualize it, accept that as an accomplished fact that that is now exactly what's happening. Okay. And she's stuck on that for years. Okay. And she walked into church one day and the pastor said, oh, while we were sitting here praying, I saw an angel come and take something out of your body. And that's over 40 years ago. Perfectly. So that's an example that says she had a clear vision. So what is her vision? That right now, this is the reality. Okay. So I'll give you another couple examples. I have a full-time coaching business, okay? But I've done it for many years part-time. And one day I decided to do it full-time, right? So one thing I had to do, I had to let go of, you kind of got to get rid of baggage of things that feel like obligations. Does that make sense? So I was, at the time, I was still on another network marketing business that I kind of felt I should probably still do something with this, even though my heart wasn't in it. So I realized I had to let that go. And then I'm like, okay, so what can I use? What can my vision be, right? To create what I want. All right, let me give you a simple example. My oldest daughter right here is pregnant. I'm gonna be a grandfather in September. Super excited. So if she was standing here and she said to me, Daddy, oh, I love this baby. And I'm like, okay, honey, I did not see a baby. Okay. She was like, look, I understand you can't hold the baby now, but believe me, I have a baby and I already love the baby, and I'm going to stay pregnant long enough until I give birth to the baby, and then we can both hold it, right? So faith or getting pregnant with what you want to create, it's that. It's like, okay, can you see, and you may not be able to hold it, but can you see and feel it as if it is already now an accomplished fact? So the emotion part, that third part is like, you want to create here, like you want to create a certain business, okay? So you'll feel a certain way about life, okay? If you become pregnant with the vision of your business, you already feel it. You already have the benefit of your business before it shows up. So what I did is I'm like, okay, what can my vision be that can help manifest this? That makes sense. So I thought for a bit and I'm like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. So I would imagine with detail and emotion that it's Sunday night and I'm wondering, what's my week look like this week? Yeah, anyone ever a Sunday night, you're like, I wonder what my week looks like. So for me, I pull up my Google Calendar on my phone. Does that make sense? Like, oh, on week view. Everyone do that? Like, here's Sunday through Saturday. Here's what I got this going on right now. In my vision, I would see appointments sprinkled out throughout the week. Now, it wasn't yet actual reality, but this is my vision. And I would imagine seeing them, and I would imagine counting every single one. Like literally, 2, 3 Monday, Tuesday, 18. I'm like, oh, 18 appointments. That's about 72 a month. You know, I charge about $100, $125 per hour. And I'm like, oh, it's like $7,000 a month. I'm like, I could probably feed my family on that. That's nice. And I'm like, I don't have to do any side hustles. And I'm like, I'm not working 60 hours a week either. You know what? I could have hobbies. I'm like, this is amazing. And I'm doing meaningful work for meaningful pay. Does that make sense? And so I would feel the reality of it as clearly as I could. Now here's a trick, and you don't write down anything else from the day. Write this down. I ask myself a very specific question while I'm in the vision, right? Because your brain will the questions you ask yourself, it's like where your brain gets pointed. Okay. And the question I would ask myself is, how come it was so easy to create this? How come it was so easy to create this? Right? Not, why is no one signing up for me? Why didn't I hit my business goal? Like, no, who cares? Like, right? So it's present tense, so it's a statement of faith, but I'm asking my brain to reverse engineer. Does that make sense? How come it was so easy? So outside of my time of meditation, I pay attention to what ideas come. Does that make sense? You're like, I should probably change this to my website. I'll do this kind of video. I know, I'm gonna make a course on this. I'm gonna post it over here, right? And in 2 months, boom, I gave birth to that. So I went for maybe 6 years of part-time doing coaching. And in 2 months, I got pregnant with it and I gave birth to it in 2 months, like that, right? So what you want to do is you want to look at your life or business and you want to get clear on, okay, well, what most people do, here's the mistake most people do. They're like, cool, this sounds great, but I'm not sure what I want to do with my life. Anyone at that place, I don't really know what I want to do. Like, good news, I already know what you want. That's good news, right? So you don't focus on what it's going to take or what kind of business or what kind of career. Get clear on a vision on how you feel about life. That makes sense? For example, you might be like, I'll give you a couple of very simple examples. Your vision is it's Friday night, you're on a date with your spouse, you're at a fairly nice restaurant. You could tell me, because it's the real thing, you could tell me what you're wearing, how you feel physically. Do you feel fit? Does that make sense? How's the connection, right, with your spouse, right? How's your week been? They're like, man, meaningful work for meaningful pay. Great week. What are you doing with your weekend? We're gonna have fun because we balance work and we have the free time and the money to do fun things this weekend. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's like, and you have a sense of, and here's where the heart coherence comes back into. You have a sense that your life, and it's the beautiful form it has, wasn't the result of you wanting the personal development of my mix. It seemed to be mercy and grace. Does that make sense? So this is a very important thing. I want to talk. This is one of the most important things, actually. There's So when you talk about consciousness on the level of reason, I'm going to go a little out there for a bit. At reason, the God view is wise, the life view is meaningful, the emotion is understanding. Was that a 5 minutes? But the process is abstraction, okay? And abstraction looks weird, right? What does that have to do with anything? So as you move forward in your business, understand that your nervous system by default despises uncertainty and unpredictability. Unless you train it, otherwise you're like, how's that going to work out? I don't know, we'll probably fail. Like, why did you go in that ditch, right? Why did you go? I have no idea how it's going to work out. We'll probably be millionaires. Like, we don't do that, okay? So what you want to make sure you understand is that God's process in your life is an abstract process. It's not, oh, hey, here's the 5 steps for the next 10 years of life. So you don't think about anything. That's not how it works. It's seemingly disconnected things coming together by divine order and timing to create something extraordinary, right? So one of the most important things in your vision to connect to is this sense that things showed up. That makes sense? Yeah. Like, oh, randomly I get a Facebook message from some dude named Patrick Paris. I'm like, I know that guy. I've never interacted with him. He's like, some random person I sent product to in France, told him, who looked at it, who called me. Can I arrange that? Is there like a course I can do on the 5 steps to have some random person who's been really successful in network marketing call you? Can't do it. But I can participate in it. Does that make sense? And receive it. So that's one of the most important emotions to curate in your vision, is like, it was like, it just showed up. It was like, thank you. Does that make sense? And when you can feel that, one thing you do is you can breathe deeply, because like, I don't know how it's going to work out, right? And that's an important thing. So I'll give you a simple example of how you know if you have a clear vision. Okay, I'm a guy, I like watching the UFC, right? Ultimate Fighting Champion. So, and women also participate in the UFC. Okay, and there's a woman named Misha Tate who won the women's championship. Okay, so she wins the championship. Joe Rogan is a guy who's a ringside announcer, and if you win, he's going to interview. Hey, how to feel to win? And you're like, oh, right. So he interviews her in the ring after she wins, and then he has her on his podcast. And on the podcast, he asks her, how did it feel for me to interview you after you won? She goes, Joe, I had so clearly visualized it so many times that when it happened, I didn't know if it was real. That's a clear vision, right? So if you want to create something in your life, whether it's changing your physical health, right? Or your business, that's like, okay, can I walk in your bedroom at night, splash water in your face and go, what's your vision? Boom, you tell me immediately. Does that make sense? So I'll tell you, like, currently what my vision is, and I'll close with this, right? You're like, Mr. Smarty Pants, what's your vision, right? So glad you asked. So my vision is, I'm riding a mountain bike. I could tell you what the bike feels like, what the handlebar, what the grips feel like. It's an uphill left turn. I can tell you what my physical body feels like, because I'm 25 pounds less than I am now. Like, go ahead, how many weight to lose? Like, look, cyclists have got to be skinny because you got to haul everything off the hill. Okay, right? I can tell you what the bike looks like, what my clothing looks like, what the weather's like. I'm riding with a group of people because I have community and connection. Most of the people are behind me because I'm taking their butt, which feels good. But there are also some people in front of me who are pushing me to be better. You're like, wow, Steve, this looks like a really nice bike. How much is that bike? I'm like, that's $7,000 bicycle. Like, how did you pay for that? So glad you asked. There's this business I'm in, and if I hit a certain rank, they're going to give me a $10,000 bonus. I'm going to use my bonus to buy the bicycle, and my business provides time and money and freedom in my schedule, so I can go ride in the middle of the day without worrying about, like, I should be doing something else. And that's my vision. So anyways, hope this has been helpful for you.